There are a lot of text editors for Python, but today we're going to be using PyCharm. You can use other ones if you want to, and you can still use the same code. So before we type our first Python line, we have to understand that Python is an interpreter. And an interpreter essentially means that the language immediately runs a program line by line when you click run. It stops running when it reaches a line with an error or when it reaches the end of the program. So now let's create a new project and let's name it my project. And click create. And here it is. So now to create an actual Python file, you can right click the project and hover over new and go to Python file. And we can name the Python file my file. Now we can actually type our very first Python line. So let's type print hello world. Let's try to run it. So to run it, you have to right click on the file name and then click run. And you'll see that now this arrow right here is green. So if whenever you want to run this file, just click here now. Now we can write anything else in these quotation marks, like hi. So we can of course see hi right here, but what if we type something like hello world without the quotation marks? Let's see what happens. So invalid syntax. It also underlines it in red right here to tell you that it'll probably come up as an error. So invalid syntax means that the way we wrote the code is incorrect and has incorrect grammar, or it doesn't follow the rules of the language. Hello world, it needs to be a string, since it needs to be some data type, so it can print. A string is declared when we put data into quotation marks. So hello world in a string. This means anything in the string is a literal, or a fixed value in the code. And strings are usually used for words and letters. And strings can be in a single quotation mark or double quotation mark. But what if we print out just 7 without any quotation marks? It still prints without an error. So you might be wondering, why is that? Well, that's because 7 is a different data type than a string, called an integer. And you can do 7.5 since that's called a float when it has a decimal. And now let's list some important math operations. So of course we can do the classic addition, and this will print out 14 right here, not 7 plus 7, since it only prints out the value of the expression. And if you want to print out a literal 7 plus 7, you can put it in a string. But it's usually not advisable to put numbers in strings since you can do less with that data. You can do division, subtraction, multiplication, and there's another operator that's pretty important and pretty special called a modulus. So let's say we did 5% sign 4. This is called a modulus, and it gives you the remainder of dividing these. So that would just be 1, as you can see right here. Speaking of math, you can also add strings. So let's try print hello space. Let's try to add world to it. And there we go, it says hello world as one statement. So what if you also wanted to add, let's say, a number to this? So let's say print I have +7 dogs. Well, this wouldn't work because 7 is an integer and you're trying to add it to a string. So the way we can convert this integer to a string is we can do this function called stir. It's a built-in function for Python that automatically makes 7 into a string. So there we go, I have 7 dogs. And the reason we can add strings together is because a string is an array. And we'll talk about arrays in the future, which are a very important data type that you'll probably use a lot in your Python projects. So the last data type we'll learn is a boolean. So if we print out, let's say, the word true without any quotation marks. It would still print. And you might be wondering, why would true print if it doesn't have any quotation marks, since it's text, which means it should be a string. Well, that's because it's a boolean, which are a special data type which is just true, the value is true or false. So the reason we'd use booleans is because we could make something equal to true to print out anything you'd want, such as hello world. And we'll learn how to do that in the future. And thanks for watching this video. This is the first student-made video for online peer learning, and I hope to do many more in the future for other languages and other computer science stuff too. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.